Okay, first things first. Everybody, hands in the air. Come on, don't be a wuss. Here we go. Perfect. My mom fucking loves it. So, the future of work, that is pretty grand, isn't it, on a Saturday morning? I have a few points I would like to make, though, and you can easily call bullshit afterwards. I think there'll be a room next to this where you can come challenge me, but I certainly kind of bet the last 4 years of my life that this could end up being true. So let me just provide you an example first. So this you've seen 100 times before, right? You receive some email here on the left. We'll say, hey Michael, good to talk to you yesterday. Do you have time to meet up later today, tomorrow, or perhaps early next week? I'm free most days after 1 p.m. Right now, this instant, there's an email like that in your inbox. If not that, it'll arrive on Monday morning. But look at that. That's not an email. That's a fucking riddle. And you want me to solve your riddle by going into my calendar and somehow figure out later today, when is that? Perhaps early next week. So is it or is it not? Most days. And this is how these emails go. And the way that I can reply is that I say, perhaps we could do Tuesday. He say no. I say Wednesday. I say 1. You say 2. And back and forth we go. And at some point, we agree. And some of us will send out an invite. And this is not rocket science. We do this all the time. And it's not really changing from position to position. I'm sure salespeople will do more, engineers will do less, but whether you're in account management or in customer success, you set up meetings. And it is something for where if you go look at those bullets that they hired you on, I would like you to come in and work for us and do these 7 things. On that list, it didn't say you're going to die slowly by setting up meetings in your inbox. That was not on that list. The solution, though, certainly as we see it, is that somehow you win the corporate lottery and you become SVP of Flim Flam at Time Inc. and you get a human assistant that you can reply back and say, hey, you know what? I would love to meet up. I've CC'd in my assistant and he can help put something on my calendar once you're on Wall Street. That's the easy part. That is the handover. And after that, really, the pain didn't disappear. You just moved it from you to somebody else. And then that somebody else will have to deal with that pain. Now, what I think is part of the future of work is that that other entity, that individual which you hand over this particular job to, will not be a human. That will be a machine. So me and my friends, I actually think we have 2 in here. Where's Penina and Raquel? Over there. You should stand up. Stand up. Do it. Do it. Yes. They're rock stars. We're on the same team. What we spent the last 4 years working on is this intelligent agent that can do this one particular job. And you can call that AI. We like to perhaps kind of think of it as highly verticalized AI, or AI that can do one job, but that one job really well. So that response to this particular email and any incarnation of it is something that rhymes with what you see on the right here, which is, hey John, I'd be happy to meet up. I have CC'd in Amy or Andrew, which is the other agent we have, and he can help put something on my calendar. Now, the job is one for where we have no app or website or plugin or extension or what have you. The whole application is just this email. And the whole interface to the agent is the same interface as if you've hired a human. So the agent will now understand, what did you just ask me to do? Remove me from the conversation, reach out to one or more participants, have very human-like conversations or really negotiations, drive them towards conclusion, and upon conclusion, send out the invite. So that's the part for where, okay, I can imagine that. I can certainly imagine that there's a whole set of jobs, if not just little chores, for where in the future I actually don't have to either do it myself or hire somebody to do it. I can just hire this agent. And that, I think, is the part for where it starts to become interesting. Because if you start to hire little agents or verticalized AIs to do jobs for you, then what is your job? And I think your job as a knowledge worker, or this whole kind of setting for where we move from the farm to the factory to the office, is now one for where most of us will probably have to accept that we are becoming managers, all of us. So most people today are not in settings where they need to manage other people. They need to do good work and provide decent output, but they're not in management settings. My belief of this future is one where we are forced to become managers. And what does this new management setting really mean? It means that certainly one of your first jobs, if I hired you as an account manager, is not for you to come in and present your CV and tell me that you went to Columbia, I have 2 years of experience, and I've done this in the past on other SaaS companies. But it's one of you telling me that, hey, I have hired 11 agents over the last 2 years, all intelligent agents. This is the set of criteria on which I hired them. This is how I've trained them. This is the data which I captured. These are the 2 that I fired because they didn't work for me. And this is how I'm going to bring them into your organization. And that suggests, certainly to me, 2 things. One, I am probably not hiring you for you anymore. I'm hiring you for the team which stands behind you, which is that if you come in and tell me as a sales individual for my sales team that, you know what, I don't really like email, so I'm writing letters and mailing them out to our prospects. That sounds overly eccentric, as in so eccentric that we probably can't work together. As in, who the hell sends out letters in September 2017? But I think it will be equally eccentric if you tell me, I really like to sit at 9 p.m. in my underwear at home trying to schedule meetings. What? That's not what I'm paying you for. So you would have to come up with some plausible setting where you can tell me, who did you hire? Under what criteria? How did you manage them? And when I do hire you, how do you think they can benefit me in this new setting? And in that setting, you will have to pick up traditional management skills. What does it mean to interview an AI? How did you pick it? How does it mean to train one? I think we have good ideas on how we train our employees. But how do you train an AI? As in, for me, do you set up 1,000 meetings and it gets to know you? Once you've trained it, how do you keep it around and make sure that it does good work and continue to do good work? And how do you do, whether it be the traditional one-on-one or quarterly evaluation, how do you determine that it is now no longer serving the purpose that I hired it for? And that is something for where, if I'm right, and I bet 4 years of my life on it, you would have to figure out, how do I become a manager? And being a knowledge worker just isn't good enough. And you need to become a knowledge manager, and that's not a term, but you can make up your own term on that. But that also suggests, if we are all becoming managers, and I think we are, then what do we provide to the equation? And I am very much an optimist. This is not one for where I think, personally, I can capitalize a little on this idea that there's a pool of jobs which now go away because I put agents in their place. I actually don't think that our particular agent is replacing any jobs, by the way. And I think many of these agents are not out in this kind of very dystopian setting for where the whole thing is going to be worse tomorrow. I think many of these agents will do things that were just put on us. They're kind of just democratizing access to something that used to be a luxury. It's not like all of us in here have a human assistant managing our calendar right now. We don't. We have ourselves. But in this new setting, I think we have to, and it seems almost just logical to me, that we'll capitalize on what makes us really human. As in, the irony of what is happening right now is that many of the things that we do at work are kind of machine-like. Making sure that you have your receipts reimbursed and having to kind of scan that, add a little note and inject it into Expensify. That's really a machine task. You trying to set up a meeting, you and me meeting up at 1, 2, 3 tomorrow or the day after is all the same. That's really a machine task. You injecting that 2 or 3 notes for that sales prospect into Salesforce, that's really a machine task. So the funny thing here is that a lot of what we do today is really just machine-like. And perhaps for once, we can remove all of that noise and kind of come back to what really makes us human. As in, if I'm an account manager, what I do best is sit and talk to our customers about how they can best utilize our software or products or whatever that might be. Not all the other shit around it, but being intimate with that individual. And when I'm intimate with that individual, what humans do really well is trying to pick up on cues for where there is no sensor or data signal, as in, I sense something is not right, or customer is not happy, or this project not moving in the right direction. That is a skill we have as humans, as in, we might not even know where we picked up the signal, but we certainly have some idea of things turning a bit more left than we had hoped for. And that kind of creativity to figure out how to bring that back on track, we do that well. That's actually the fun part of most work. That is when you're at the whiteboard and trying to solve something where there's no kind of immediate solution, and then you can leave the work to your agents. So, in closing, and then we'll see if we cannot squeeze out a couple of questions. One, I find it highly likely that there's a whole set of chores, primarily in your inbox, that are about to be outsourced to highly specialized AIs, whether they schedule meetings or help you have your receipts reimbursed. Once that happens, and as it starts to happen, your job must change. That will come hand in hand, and you must become managers and pick up the skill set of a manager. And that management skill set will have to be updated to this new setting, because prior knowledge on how you hire, train, and retain an individual will be different for an AI. And once you've done that, I think we can finally, as the future of work, start to capitalize on what really makes us humans. That was my short story. Does that make sense? Thank you very much.